Good evening and welcome to yet another edition of Yes 101's Visual Radio. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Tharuni Karunaratna. Let's start off with the headlines.
Newsfirst headline.
In local news, Sri Lanka's path remains on knife edge, says IMF. Executive officers spark outcry with two-day sick leave protest. Janaka Ratnayaka court case's oral submission date fixed. Minister of Fisheries meets President's international climate advisor. In news overseas, California police move in to dismantle pro-Palestinian protest camp at UCLA. And in sports, giant reservoir ready for service as Paris 2024 games loom. On to those stories in detail now. The International Monetary Fund says that achieving the IMF-supported program's objectives is a key priority to give Sri Lanka a chance of emerging from one of the worst crises in its history. A statement from an IMF spokesperson said that Sri Lanka's path remains on a knife edge. The IMF spokesperson said, quote, Sri Lanka has made good progress in terms of getting the recovery going, and it will be important to safeguard these hard-won gains. A key priority in the time ahead is to persevere with the reforms that will enable stable and inclusive economic growth and avoid slipping into another crisis. The statement added that the program does get adjusted periodically during regular reviews in light of developments. Meanwhile, the government executive services officers have initiated a two-day sick leave reporting process. Simultaneously, they staged a protest opposite the Ministry of Finance as well. This demonstration stems from unresolved professional issues, particularly salary disparities. Government executive services officials from 18 different fields, including the State Engineering Service, Agriculture, Education, Health, Science, Information Technology, Labour and Surveying, engaged in the protest action. The group marched from Colombo Fort and assembled in front of the Ministry of Finance today. Notably, a significant presence of police and anti-riot personnel was observed around the Colombo Fort during this time. Meanwhile, Colombo Chief Magistrate Thilina Gamage today fixed the oral submissions date of the complaint filed by Janaka Ratnayaka, the former chairman of the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka, who requested an order to prevent the release of his highly private information online for the 6th of June 2024. The decision was made considering facts presented by President's Counsel Kalinga Indathissa, who appeared for the plaintiff. The Colombo Chief Magistrates Court, which took up the relevant case filed by Janaka Ratnayaka on the 4th of April, issued a conditional order to the suspects including Gayatri Bimba, who was his personal assistant, her husband Janaka Rajpaksha, Oshala Lakmal Herath, Yasalal Pereira, Kavishwar Gunaratna and Jamani Kamanta Tushara. The case was filed under the Online Safety Act No. 9 of 2024, which was passed by the Parliament recently. Still in local news, Minister of Fisheries Douglas Devananda met with President's international climate advisor Eric Solheim. The Ministry of Fisheries said that in the meeting held in Colombo, the future affairs of the country, including the economy, politics and environment, were discussed. Minister of Fisheries Douglas Devananda has said that President Ranil Wickremesinghe is committed to solving the problems of the Tamil community of Sri Lanka. Eric Solheim is the peace envoy appointed by the Norwegian government in Sri Lanka during the time the LTTE was active in the country. Up next is international news.
International news.
Now, hundreds of helmeted police muscled their way into a central plaza of the University of California, Los Angeles, or UCLA, early on Thursday in a move to disperse a pro-Palestinian protest camp attacked the previous night by pro-Israel supporters. The pre-dawn police crackdown at UCLA marked the latest flashpoint for mounting tensions on United States college campuses, where protests over Israel's conduct of the war in Gaza have led to student clashes with each other and law enforcement. Starting around sunset on Wednesday, officers in tactical gear began filing onto the UCLA campus, adjacent to a complex of tents occupied by throngs of demonstrators. Prior to moving in, police urged demonstrators in repeated loudspeaker announcements to clear the protest zone, occupying a plaza plaza about the size of a football field between the landmark Twin Tower Auditorium, a Royce Hall and the main undergraduate library. Let's now take a look at your sports news this evening.
Sports news.
In sports news, it's on the 2024 Paris Olympics. Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo on Thursday inaugurated a colossal storage basin that will help reduce the risks of pollution in the Seine as Olympics approach and make the river suitable for bathing. The primary goal is to have the Seine bathable by 2025, with the Paris Games boosting that aim, even though some of the sporting events were cancelled last summer as health standards were not met after heavy rains and a sewer problem. The city has been building a storage basin capable of holding 46,000 cubic meters of wastewater to significantly reduce the risks of pollution in the Seine. It will now start to operate before the end of the month. And with that, we wrap up this edition of Yes 101's Visual Radio. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Theruni Karunaratne. Thank you for watching.